to record. All right, once more, good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining us on this beautiful day, the 28th of October, 2025. Wow, we're almost rounding up. The year is almost, somebody should come, oh, the year is ending. This is quite interesting. I wanted to say something else, but I had to cut that short. We're almost getting to Christmas and it's interesting. I think this is is this our 10th book? Saluatoni, is this our 10th book or 8th? We are running behind schedule. This time last year, we already finished our archive for the year. So we're actually running behind schedule. So hopefully we are going to continue in that speed until the end of the year so that we can complete our 12 books of read for the year. And then, of course, go into case study and video challenges. Having said that, tonight, for this series, we're reading the book 0 to 1. A very interesting, thought-provoking book written by Peter Thiel with Blake Master. So Blake Master was giving credit because he's a student to Peter in Stanford. This book was written around 2012 when the gentleman Peter Thiel, an entrepreneur, went to coach in the school, college, Stanford. And the gentleman who took note in the class was Blake Master, and that's why he's giving credit for the book. So we started yesterday, myself and also Saoluwatoyin dissected and introduced the book, chapter 1 and 2 in the house, and it was quite interesting. I wouldn't want to revisit the summary of chapter 1 and 2, but I'd like to continue by bringing up the next speaker, lady pharmacist Nenlap Bello, who is going to be walking us through the ideology of competition. Ma'am, over to you.
Okay, good evening, business readers. It's a pleasure to be here. First of all, before I begin, I must apologize that I'm very sorry. My camera is going to be turned off. I am not at home, and it's pretty dark where I am, and I know that turning on my camera would only make it worse. So please bear with me, and I'll just let my late night DJ voice do the work and carry us through the summary. Chapter 4. Now, yesterday we ended by talking about the 0 to 1 and 1 to n concept of businesses, business innovations and technological innovations for the future. Today, we're going to quickly summarize chapter 4. And again, I would apologize. I do not have a presentation. I couldn't get one done. It's been quite a day for me, but I'm sure I'll be able to summarize chapter 4 well, concisely enough, to make sense for this session. So for chapter 4, the ideology of competition, the core idea for chapter 4, the author argues that competition is overrated, and most of the time competition can be destructive. So true progress, he says, comes from creating monopolies, that your business or your company is so unique that you don't need to fight other rivals. You're not thinking about other competitions. And this reminds me of the blue ocean concept, where you have a unique value proposition that no one else has, and you're the only one swimming in that, blue ocean with no competitors, no sharks around, and then you're the only one that has that thing. So for chapter 4, the key points, as the author puts forward, are as follows. The first is that competition, if you view competition as a mindset, he talks about how culture glorifies competition, and it can be seen in many aspects of our lives. In school, we're expect to have a certain score. We compete with other students, even in sports, in our careers. Competition is already a mindset. However, he says obsessing over our rivals, over the people we have to be better than, over the people we have to beat, cannot actually blind us from creating truly valuable innovations. Now, he also talks about copying versus creating. And in competitive markets, businesses often copy each other, and I think yesterday we highlighted a bit, we talked about the one to n a value innovation, where you're replicating what has already been done in another area. So the truth is, most businesses copy. When someone else starts something, another person copies it, and then everybody's doing the same thing, which is a lot like what we see in businesses. And he says this leads to wars of attrition, because profits are very thin. The market is saturated with many people doing the same thing. So you're putting in a lot of energy, which in the end, most is wasted because you're spread thin. Other people are doing the same thing that you do. So you don't really get to make a lot of profit. Now he goes on to talk about monopoly as success. And he says a great company does not compete. A great company will escape the competition by offering, most of the time, something that is usually 10 times better than what is already in the market, than what every other person in that space is competing for. Or he creates something completely different from what every other person is doing. And that is what monopoly does. And he says monopolies can focus on long-term planning, innovation, and customer value. And this also leads me back to the value proposition, which the blue ocean technology talks about. Then he gave some examples. He said, he talked about Google. He says Google dominates search because it's Google, like it or not, it's vastly better than its rivals. So this monopoly enables Google to be able to fund ambitious projects because what they offer is usually uniquely different. Yes, there are other search engines, but the truth is Google usually is many, many times better than other search engines. Now he also compares, that with other restaurants, where thousands compete, the same things, offering the same value, the same kinds of things. And in the end, margins are very tiny, profits are not much, and no one usually builds a lasting impact. So for chapter 4, I'll round up by saying the key takeaway is that when we compete in the market, we're usually focusing on others. I know we always try to do a competitive analysis to see what is in the market, what other people are doing, but that is supposed to make us, innovate, be unique, or come up with the value proposition that is 10 times better than what is in the market. So if we continue to focus on others, he has explained, we will not make much profit or any form of lasting impact. However, when we think monopoly, the 0 to 1 concept, starting something new, offering something completely unique, where we're the only ones that have that thing, or making what is already existing much, much better than what anyone else around can have, what we're doing is we're focusing on ourselves and we're actually building the future. And that is what monopoly does. Monopoly makes us focus on ourselves to build our future. So to be able to go from 0 to 1, it's important that we begin to think and aim to create something unique, a unique value proposition, unique enough that we are no longer in the red ocean swimming against sharks, and we don't need to fight to survive. So that's it for my summary of chapter 4. Thank you for listening, and over to you, Princess. I welcome contributions, questions, and comments, or anything I may have missed out. At this point, we can share. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, pharmacist Nenlap Bello. I have to curate my voice because I was almost like, excuse me, where are we? Jeez, why am I shouting? Wow. Saulu, I told you, did you feel that?
Oh,
He made
always,
up, he
always,
made up, he
always,
made up for our
always.
slides. I cannot even go in that direction. I cannot even speak anymore. I can ask for the slides, even though she had apologized for the slides. But I mean, he really did made up for your slides. And boy, was your voice sweet. And you held on to it. And that summary was very concise and
You know,
very
we've
nicely done.
we've always said that I don't know how you managed to choose those people in the book review team. They all have that same, characteristic in terms of their voice. Is it Miriam? Is it I think Umi is in that team, right? And is
No,
it Coach? Oh,
Samira.
okay, Samira, sorry.
Yes.
Coach Samira, and someone else. There were about four of them.
And
Yeah.
of course, the HOD.
HOD,
Yes,
yeah,
very
okay.
true.
Yeah.
Very true. They all do
Yeah.
have that late night DJ voice. And for those of you who are joining and didn't get to read the book, which of the book was it again? I've forgotten the name of that book.
The last one? Is it a lean startup or which one?
No, not the Lean Startup. The one where we had the negotiation.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
remember that
Is it
book.
the money book? The book about
No,
money?
no, it's
Um,
not the money book.
yeah, I think I'm trying to remember. I can't remember right now. Yeah.
Anybody remember, please
Okay,
send
where
us a
we talked
name.
about the DJ late night
The
voice.
late,
That's
yes.
late.
So for those of you who join us, it's from reading that we got to discover the late night DJ voice. It's very important too for negotiation. Um, when you lower your voice, it registers in a different frequency and light, and your tone is, I wouldn't use the word seductive, but a little bit more calm and powerful. And of course, your party or whoever you're negotiating with would be able to understand you a little bit more clearer. And that's why you see majority of us have adopted it. Well, since we're not in the bedroom, I'm still very much in tune with my, regular voice
Yeah,
frequency.
it's called Never Split the Difference by
Never
Chris
Split
Voss.
the Difference. Thank you very much by
Yeah.
Chris Voss. And it was a very beautiful book when we read that book. Very insightful book on negotiation. So if you've not read the book, please try and get it in your library and read up. Or you go to our website, you'll be able to find um, the books in our archives already. So yes, I want to be the first to give you your flowers, Nenlap. Nicely done, beautifully done. And of course, for the boardroom, we usually open the room to feedback, which is the first thing we do, feedback. But first of all, before you send your feedback or criticize any speaker, or you constructively add to their growth, you should first give them their flowers for being able to present in the boardroom, because it's very challenging. If you don't know, it's really very challenging to come out here every evening when we are in section to be able to present a book review, and not just present, summarize it, present it in a way that is more adaptable and tailored to top executive of our ranking. So that was nicely done. your flowers. I can see flowers. I'm waiting for the dollar sign so that, I can come to your house and collect, some money. So yeah, Nenlap, very nicely done. Anybody has input, any thought, any comment, on her presentation, please share feedback for her and also comment on the chapter that she has just reviewed.
Good evening,
Good evening.
everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pharmacist Nenlap, for this wonderful presentation. My own contribution is about competition. We, as you have said, the writer said, we focus more on competition and how to outdo our competitors or get the upper hand. But as suggested by the reader, I think it's more of trying to find your own niche, trying to innovate, as they said, innovate or die. Try and do something, uniquely different from others. That will give you an edge instead of this competitive nature that we all have. And I notice it even in the market. You see, when things come out or when something is raining, everybody will just rush and be doing exactly the same thing, and the market becomes saturated. Nobody will and at least pause and think, oh, what can I tweak about this, or how can I be different so that I'll be in the blue ocean and not in the red ocean. So this book is stressing that fact that we should always strive to innovate. We should try and do something out of the box so that we are unique in our businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Morayo. Thank you so much for that contribution. I think it's very important what you just said, to try to differentiate ourselves. And that is what the book also echoes. To be building the future means that you are not just competing or copying, as the case may be, but you are able to innovate, from 0 to 1. And that is what the entire book is about. Any other addition, submission, feedback for Nenlap? I can
Good
see
evening,
Umi
everyone.
from UK. Yes, Engineer Ken, good evening. How are you doing?
And she really did a good job. I had to keep my phone and just listen as if it's a radio because there was no slide. But she was going gaga, as in, I was visualizing what she was saying. So her presentation, even without the slide, had a slide. Competition, as she said, most of the time, we waste energies on competition. If you tend to compete, you forget about your creativity. That real you, that you sit down and think and do your own things in your own special way. Rather than you do it, it's better doing it that way rather than going to look at what the other person is trying to do. Let me do better than the person. Why not be genuine creativity, yourself creativity? Visualize it yourself rather than trying to check what is the other person trying to do. Let me outmatch him or outweigh him. That's my own contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very well said. Very well said. Any other contribution?
Right. Good evening, everyone, or hello, everyone.
Good evening,
Nancy
Miss Nancy.
here. Yes,
How are you
so
doing?
apologies. I'm doing great. My voice is quite low. Though I am having a network issue, so I've been going off and on. Thankfully I was able to get some of the parts. Well done, Nenlap is always expected. I don't expect less. You understand? What caught my attention was when you said Google is the best search engine. My question is Google really the best search engine or the best search engine, so the best sold search engine? because some of us who are content creators work with a lot of tools, and then we've had the privilege to compare content from most of these engines. You find out that there are a lot of good stuffs, but which one is most marketed? That is the one you feel is the best. So I think that's the angle we should also look about at as entrepreneurs. That even coming from 0 to 1 doesn't necessarily mean you must do something that is that a kind of that unique or that extraordinary, or have to maybe a skyrocket or something like that. No, there are angles you could come from and still be top up. So Google, one of their strategies or one of their edge is that they've integrated into so many other tools and everything. That is why when you go with when you use an Android, the first thing it comes with the Google Chrome is integrated with Google, and then you just find yourself there. So I feel um, there are many things that we can, there are many angles we can come from to stand out, not necessarily the product itself. I don't know if you understand where I'm coming from. So there are a couple of things that makes one stand out, and yes, the quality is one, but sometimes the most quality, the product or the that part may not be what will make you to stand out. So there are other things you can put into play. There are other angles you can look into to be able to also monopolize your the industry without necessarily thinking that you need to do is you need to pull down a skyscraper or so. I don't know if you get me, but then it's a good one, and I'm happy to be back at the boardroom.
And we're happy to have you in the boardroom. Coach Nancy, thank you for bringing up the conversation around Google. And I'm happy that Saoluwatoyin is going to sweep us through chapter 3, because in chapter 3, there was actually a conversation tailored around Google. Now, Google is not just a search engine. It can be seen in multiple facets, whether as an advertising company. It can also be framed as a multifaceted technology company. And by the time you begin to expand that scope of classifying a particular organization or company or product or services, you begin to see that we have what we call, what the writer terms as a monopoly lie, okay, and the competitive lie. So I would leave the floor right now for Saoluwatoyin. Thank you. And I think Dr. Sam did not get his notification and probably had not had time to look at the boardroom. Otherwise, he would have sent a message. Funny enough, I didn't receive any from Dr. Sam. So to walk us through chapter 3, Saoluwatoyin will, flip that chapter very quickly in 10 minutes and at least answer some of the questions around competitive lie, monopoly lie, and just in general, look at chapter 3. All happy companies are different. How are they different? Saoluwatoyin, if you're ready, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Princess. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I think I somehow roped myself into this one, but let's see how it goes. Okay, so Nenlap, and by the way, that was a beautiful presentation. Like I say, when I grow up, I would like to be like you. So we'll just take a deep dive into chapter 3, which was supposed to come before this last chapter. So I would be trying to connect some of the things I'm saying to what Nenlap said already. Yeah, so pardon me, I'm just trying to get, okay. So this chapter is titled, All Happy Companies Are Different. All Happy Companies Are Different. And basically the summary of this chapter is about, it discusses that contrarian notion in business that asked. And yesterday I remember talking about the meaning of that word contrarian, which is about the notion, I mean, which is about a kind of concept of, people who do things differently or who ask sort of add questions and walk in the opposite direction. So which means that if everyone else is going in this direction, people who have the contrarian notion, would always go in the opposite direction. So this chapter talks about that contrarian notion in business that asks the question, what valuable company is nobody building? What valuable company is nobody building? So as an entrepreneur, having that mindset that, okay, what can we do differently? How can we build differently? That's what we're looking at. So it says establishing value alone doesn't guarantee a company's worth. It's also crucial to capture the value created. The contrast between airlines and Google highlights that large businesses can still be poorly managed if they fail to retain profit margins. So basically in the book, talked about Google as a company and, how large that company has become and how it's been managed and all of that. And, comparing it to an airline business, which is also very large. Airlines usually are very large businesses or large business organizations. And, all of the different types of companies, no matter how large they are, everything still boils down to how they are being managed. If a company is poorly managed, it means that, they would have less and less profit margins. So basically, when we tie it to, when we tie it to the topic, I mean, the title of this chapter, which says that all happy companies are different. I think what the writer is trying to bring out there is that it doesn't matter what you do, whether you are into a specific type of business or the other, it's all down to the management of those organizations and how, the management can bring out the real value in the business, the real value in the business in terms of what sort of service or product that you dish out of the business and how it affects your clients. Okay, so the writer also speaks to competition versus monopoly. And here we see that economists classify market structures into perfect competition and monopoly. In a perfect competition, firms can still set prices due to lack of differentiation, leading to no long-term economic profits. So we understand that you can still set your prices, your price points, basically in a competition. But this says that it will lead to no long-term economic profits for sure. If you're not a monopoly, if you're in a very stiff competition, definitely you have to find what happens in that setting is that you have to keep finding ways of redefining your products in a way that they can match the pricing because it's a competition going on, and at the end of the day it's survival of the fittest. So that's the premise there. So monopolies, on the other hand, can dictate prices and maximize profits due to their unique offerings. Google is used as an example of a successful monopoly that doesn't compete in the traditional sense. So we all know that Google, Nancy was talking about Google in terms of their marketing power, their reach and everything else. Even before a hardware computer is churned out of the factory, Google has already approached, the manufacturer, and they've already have the back dealing with them, and they get their software uploaded or domiciled on that equipment. And so when it comes to you, you don't even have a choice. The first thing you see when you open your computer is Google, right? So that way, they've been able to monopolize the market, right? The little guys, the small players don't even have a chance. They don't even stand a chance because their own apps or their own applications would not even show up in the first place. So that's where they've got the upper hand, because they kind of monopolize the market by either buying up smaller. With that's very predominant in the tech space, where you have companies acquiring other companies as quickly as possible. So if they find out that you're doing something that they are doing, for instance, okay, I'm into, let's say, I'm into a particular area of the tech app or whatever, and then let's use the browser for instance as example. So Google is a web browser, a web application rather, and basically they could see that, okay, someone else has done something and it looks quite innovative, and it's something that maybe hasn't gathered so many users, doesn't gathered so many people flocking around it. What they can quickly do is they look at it and say, okay, within the next 3 to 4 years, if we're not careful, these guys will be competing with us. So let's quickly, go and give them some offer and get this company under us. And you know that probably 80 to 90% of acquisitions like that usually kills the product. It doesn't even add they might just take 1 or 2 unique features from that product and add it onto their own products, and then that's it. They kill that other product entirely. But when they go to negotiation table, usually they would say, okay, yeah, we want to adopt this product features because we love it, blah blah blah. But the main aim is to actually kill that product from being a competitor, not because they actually need what at the best. Their own engineers can also copy whatever features from that initial product if they wanted to, but they just want to kill that product so that that product does not stand as a competition to them in the future. So in terms of monopoly versus competition, or competition versus monopoly, we can see that it's a fight for basically profit margin. It's a fight for it's that quest for wanting to get the upper hand in a way that no other person can control the market. So it's market control. The price point, the market's price point is being controlled in the monopoly more than it is in the competitive space. So very important that as entrepreneurs and whatever, that when you're going into business, you need to understand your area. Am I in the competitive space, or am I in the monopolistic arena? So is it a blue ocean? Is it a red ocean type of scenario for you? Whereby at the end of the day, you might do so much, you might have good intentions, you might put in all the effort, but because you have too much competition in that market, it still doesn't show for anything. Versus somebody who is doing little to get more because they are in a more traditional monopolistic environment. So we want to look at the lies people tell. The writer talks about how businesses or how business perceptions often misrepresent market conditions. So how business perceptions often represent market conditions, and both monopolistic and competitors twist the truth about competition. Monopolists, forgive me. Monopolists downplay their dominant position, while competitors exaggerate their uniqueness, which can lead to misguided entrepreneurial strategies. So what this is quickly telling us is that, sometimes because you are in that competitive space, you want to, over-exaggerate things, how unique you are. You need to start redefining your your uniqueness, the way the way your products can work magic and this and that, whatever. Because of course you have a lot of competitors, you have to keep reinventing, ways to tell people how, you stand out, versus a monopolist they know that they've got it, they know that they have all the advantage, but just because they don't want people to also see them as the guys who dominate the market in a way that, oh, we're not happy with your domination, and we want, every time in the US you can see how there are these new laws that they try to bring to sort of break those very big companies into lesser powerful companies. They want to break them into 2-3 companies, and say, oh, you cannot, as Google, you cannot be you cannot play on both sides. You cannot maybe be I'm trying to remember the word they use now. I remember the other time they were trying to do that to Google and one other company, trying to break them into bits, into smaller companies. So basically, you see that companies like that try to downplay how dominant they are. The Facebooks of this world, as Meta and the rest of them, they try to downplay how mega they are, so that the government wouldn't have their eyes on them, people wouldn't have their eyes on them. You can use a good example is our own, Dangote industry in Nigeria. Every time people want to be like, oh, why is it that it's the only company doing this? Why is it that it's that only company doing that? Why is that they've taken over this market? And that way, if you make yourself, if you present yourself as too dominant, of course, people start having that perception, and perception leads to, people rethinking what to do to bring your company down. So usually it's the opposite way. The guys in the competitive space, they tell lies about how, unique they are. They try to bring themselves above their position, while the guys in the monopolistic space, in the monopolist state, they bring themselves, they try to downplay their dominant position in the market. So let's also see monopoly lies, how they come about. Say monopolists often conceal their status to avoid scrutiny, making their monopoly status by exaggerating competition. The analysis of Google showcases how framing affects perception of market dominance. So they try to frame, the way people perceive them. They try to put it into a different perspective. You wouldn't know that maybe sometimes what they try to do is they also try to break down what they do into different components in such a way that people cannot perceive them to be making so much, from the different things that they do. Because if they don't do it that way, it's all about the perception. Okay, so let's look at the competitive lies. So non-monopolists tend to define their markets narrowly to present themselves as unique. This oversimplification can lead to failure if entrepreneurs ignore broader competitive realities. So what they do in their own case is that they try to say, okay, I'm not as, they try to define their markets narrowly. They try to go in one direction to present themselves as unique. And it says the oversimplification can lead to failure if entrepreneurs ignore broader competitive realities. So I'll just jump some of the things so that I can close. Let's look at monopoly capitalism, which the writer talked about also in this chapter. And he says that when monopolies can exploit their profit margins in a dynamic world, they drive innovation and benefit society by introducing new products and services. Let me read it again. It says, while monopolies can exploit their profit margins in a dynamic world, they drive innovation and benefit society by introducing new products and services. So what this tells us is that monopolists have advantage because, of course, they have bigger profit margins. They've got more money to play around with. They've got the capital to drive innovation. So that gives them the advantage. A monopoly, a company or an organization who runs in a monopolistic or monopoly market can easily, dominate and have more cash flow to be able to be more innovative. So it says this chapter highlights that creative monopolies improve overall welfare, providing customers with better choices. So we can see that from a lot of examples. We know that, the bigger the company, in terms of the monopoly market which they cover or which they are playing in, they're able to bring out even more and more innovation. We can see that with the Teslas of this world. We can see that even with the Googles and the rest of this world. And that gives them the advantage versus somebody who has very low margins because of the competition they are facing. They will just, every day is just a quest for survival. And so in summary, says the chapter tells us that valuable companies are those that others are not building. It presents the idea rather that valuable companies are those that others are not building. It emphasizes that just creating value is not enough. Capturing the value is crucial. The difference in management success between great companies like, the airlines and Google illustrates this point straight that, it's all about, not just creating value, but capturing the value. So that's the difference, not just creating value, but capturing the value. I think I'll stop there and so that we can just contribute. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sir Oluwatoyin. You just took this spot on and you're already giving us a lecture on chapter 3. So I think you should have just done this chapter fully, but very brilliant insight on chapter 3. Thank you very much for taking that up. So yes, we want to open the boardroom again. First, to give honor to Sir Oluwatoyin for stepping up to do chapter 3 on behalf of Dr. Kusam, who is unavoidably absent tonight. Thank you so very much once again. And also to open the room for conversation, insight, comment, feedback, contribution. The boardroom is open. I can see Umi wants to say something. She's been going back and forth. Umi, how are you? Thank you, Sir Oluwatoyin. Somebody, Nenlap, of course, has sent you a beautiful review there, and Dr. Murayo is also sending you lots of flowers. Umi, do you want to say something?
Okay, let me see. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, it's always a pleasure being here in the boardroom. Yes, I have read a little bit of them, not a lot, but listening to always our boss, it was fantastic. I really went through, and unfortunately I missed our dear HOD's presentation. And the way you people are saying, I know I missed it, so I have to watch the recording. Thank you very much, sir, for your presentation. And this have given me foundation for my own, because I will not give an excuse. I will come and show up wherever I am. So inshallah, I'll come and show up. I'm in a very busy conference, but I will still try to prepare for my review and come tomorrow fully charged. So see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Umi. Yes, I think you are presenting tomorrow, right? Let me see the schedule. Yes, you're presenting tomorrow, Wednesday, you and Coach Namsi, but I think Coach Namsi has been moved for Wednesday. David, Coach Namsi is supposed to be moved for Wednesday. Do I have a new schedule for tomorrow? Yes, I wanted to say Dr. Nana. Nana, you need to go for your PhD, because now it's the doctor that is on my lips for you now. So Salu, I told you, go for your chieftaincy title and all that. And Nenlap, please go for your PhD. Dr. Nenlap, over to you. I will call you until you become. I will call you
From
until
your
you
lips to God,
become.
yes.
Yes, my
From your
darling.
lips to God. Yes, yes. We're heading there. It's on my to-do list. So it's something I'm going to drop pharmacist Nenlap. I would like to be called Dr. Nenlap because it's not going to be, I know it's not an easy journey. I'm looking forward to it. Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Uluwatoyin. Such a beautiful review, even on such short notice. I think you're able to capture, almost everything the writer talks about in chapter 3. So thank you once again and well done. Well done. Well, for me, as I was listening to Mr. Uluwatoyin, and then I was thinking about the whole Google thing and how they try to hide how big they are and all of that, and how chapter 3 talks about monopoly versus competition. It says for monopoly, these companies just try to hide themselves and make themselves look like they are still a part of the competition, And for Google, they say they are just, I think they call it, is it just an advertising company? That's what they call themselves from chapter 3. But of course, we know they're much more than that. And then they say for businesses that are still in the competition, in the competitive market, they exaggerate, as Mr. Toyin highlighted, like they have something truly very different and very big and very unique to offer, which may not be so different than what is in the market. Now, for me, when we talk about competition, hey, I'm not new to it. When you're in the pharmaceutical distribution or wholesale market, when you know that the difference of 1 naira and 2 naira can be what will make a sale or send a customer away, that is real competition. However, thinking about it, I think even in monopoly, because the writer says competition is a mindset where you're looking at competitors, but monopoly, if you really look at it, it is also a mindset. It's just a different way. You're now looking inward and seeing how, as Engineer Ken put, you can be more creative. So even in the monopoly, for me, I would dare say, there is also a competition because you're looking onward, you're looking inward, to be different, to create something new, different from the competitor. So at the end of the day, truly, I really think that the bottom line here is competition, because even in monopoly, you create something new, something different, or as Lady Nancy says, you bring in from a different angle, the marketing. It is still in the competition. You want to stand out from the competition. So even in the monopoly, the mindset, I would say, is looking inward to be different from the competition. So I would say competition has a way of pushing or bringing out monopoly. For me, that's what I think. Yeah, that's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission, Dr. Nenlap Bello. Just also to add to the discussion, we already had a contribution by Coach FO this evening with respect to Google when Coach Nancy Okorodudu was speaking. It's very obvious because if you were in the boardroom yesterday, we did the foundation or setting up the tone for the book. And usually what we do is to introduce the speaker, the background for which the book was written. This book was written in 2012. And if you take into cognizance the date and time, you understand that Google was actually a monopolistic organization as at the time. But if we reference it today, like Nancy rightly mentioned, we do have a lot of other players, key players in that particular space as one of the strongest search engine. So yes, just to reference Coach FO, and if you want to speak, Coach, you can also contribute further to your submission. Coach Efo, are you there? Do you want to say something? Any comment? No, thank you. All right. Thank you very much. We have Maro is joining us for the very first time. Everybody say hello to Maro. Maro is here tonight. His camera is turned off. That's another PhD coming our way. Dr. Maro, I will call you till you make it. How are you doing, sir?
Good. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Learned a lot. Just the short time I've been here. It's a bit noisy. Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So you joined when we were about to close. There's been a lot of interaction in this section. For tonight, it's been very insightful. We still have Nancy. Nancy, you want to say something? Okay, yeah, making noise. Oh.
Monopoly, I want to ask a question. I think maybe we will just, maybe because of the time, we may just continue the conversation in the group. So while Saul Luate was speaking, I remembered a story. A friend of mine told me recently. He is a regional manager with one of these FMCG companies. And he told me that there was a time a smaller company came out with a product. I wouldn't want, because this is recorded, I wouldn't want to call the name out for anything. He said a smaller brand came up with one of their a similar product as theirs. They were asked to go into the market to buy all those drinks from all the distributors, and they were asked to smash them and destroy them. And they did that, the big brand, I'm telling you, they did that for the next for 3 months at a row, till the brand, yes, they were selling, but they were not seeing their product out. You understand? So this, when we say we are entrepreneurs, and I like, whenever I'm going through a book or I'm going through conversation, I like to apply it with what is happening right now or what we are facing. So when you see these kind of issues that people companies monopolize because of their strength, or silently or indirectly, how can you flow? We talked about blue ocean, red ocean, right strategy. So how do you, as a small brand coming up right now, what's the mindset, and how do you cope with monopoly, with situation? Like, what do you do? What's the general advice? I just want to leave it at that.
Business
Should I
is
answer,
war.
Princess?
Business is war. Business is war. Please, over to you. Very
Should I
quickly,
answer?
because we're going to
Yeah, because
round
of
up.
the time.
Yes, in
Yeah.
3 minutes, I'm shutting down
the
the boardroom.
Yeah, the straight answer to that is pivoting, right? You just have to pivot. Your pivoting can be maybe a different strategy depending on how the competition, how the monopoly is going to kill you. Maybe you start working out how you can benefit from that monopoly. For instance, I'll give you a simple example that's in front of our faces. Dangote Industries, Dangote has brought up his refinery. Now it's no longer game as usual, or how do they say? It's no longer business as usual.
Business as usual.
For the marketers and this and that. And the wise ones pivoted fast enough. And they are in my own evaluation, somebody like Dangote's friend, Mr. Otedola, he ran out of that space immediately. He noticed that Dangote was coming up with, he sold his diesel, whatever company, so that he went into something else. He took his money elsewhere. That's one way to pivot. He left that market or that industry entirely. And another way to pivot is, okay, what can I do for Dangote refineries, maybe as a service provider? That's another way to pivot. But for you to say you want to remain a marketer, you want to be putting your trucks out there, you want to do this, that time is far gone behind. So you just have to find a way to redefine your business. That's the answer for me.
Yes. Thank you for that contribution. Or you join a mountain of fire and pray and pray. If all your drinks are being smashed, your home, there are so many ways to do it. Well, that's just a joke. But I mean, it does work, right? But business is war. On that premise, I'd like to bring the boardroom to a close
I
for
think
those who are joining us for the
Nenlap
very
says
Wait,
first
that.
time.
just one.
Oh, Madam
Princess,
Nenlap,
please just give me a few seconds.
1
Seriously,
minute,
I
Madam.
think I have something very important to say. Just 1 minute, because she talked about small businesses. Now, I'm going to give an example, a quick one. I started crayfish business. I think I'm about a year old now. Yes, maybe a year, 6 months. It fell into my lap. Got a supplier. Someone else was supposed to do it. She didn't want to do it. I was like, oh, let's not lose this contact. And then I started getting crayfish from Oron. We all know Oron crayfish is the best in Africa. I would say yes. The waters are clean, uncontaminated, and all of that.
That's
Crayfish,
why our food is
very
good. That's why,
delicious.
that's why, I
Yeah.
mean, that's why the skin is a crayfish food.
Yeah. So I started selling crayfish, doing adverts, my WhatsApp and all of that. I started supplying restaurants in large quantities, in bags. However, I noticed something, supply wholesale. First of all, as a startup, the truth is I did not even have the funds to keep up with the demands for these big restaurants. Truly, I didn't have the funds. And then, secondly, I noticed that the market in Abuja is kind of saturated, right? The truth is, a lot of people are selling crayfish, and you look at it, people don't even care what kind or whatever kind of where crayfish comes from, their source. So I had to change. I began to look inward when we talk about monopoly. Of course, I am a pharmacist. I had to find a way, of being in the competition, but making it look like I had something different. And I started talking about contaminants, which is true, by the way. There's a rise in cancer cases and all of that. And we know that most cancer cases come from what we eat. However, I knew that I wanted a product where, people could trust in the safety of my crayfish. I got it NAFDAC tested, and wow, it's beautiful, no contaminants, moisture content zero, and all of that. I changed the packaging and I started selling, supplying supermarkets and all of that. However, I realized that the turnaround time, it took a long time for supermarkets to be able to sell off because there are many other people doing the same thing. So the competition is quite stiff. And as Mr. Oluwatoyin suggested, I decided to pivot. This is Abuja. We have a lot of people that are enlightened, that know the different kinds of crayfish. Up north, there is no natural source for crayfish. And I decided, you know what? I will still sell in Abuja, but let me turn my attention to places like Kaduna, as far as Sokoto. And the truth is, wow, they are buying this crayfish like, in fact, even I am surprised, that they place a lot of orders for crayfish. So sometimes, as small businesses, you need to, you may not have the funds, but as Mr. Oluwatoyin says, at some point you pivot. Your product is very good. You have a very unique value proposition. You've tried to add value, make it better for people. However, it may not be moving the way you want to. Sometimes you just have to change location, change your target market, change something, change your strategy. So you may just see how you can pivot to see how it will work. And it will require a lot of thinking and inward creativity. And that is why I would say competition drives monopoly. So that's my submission. Thank you, Princess.
Thank you very much. And competition also drives innovation. Very rightly said, you shared all your trade secret. That's very beautiful. Crayfish from Moron is the best, but like she rightly mentioned, I follow the trajectory of that particular brand. And if you look at the packaging, even if you don't want to buy the crayfish, you buy it. And that's the truth. And to also go beyond just selling a product that is very common in our market, to be able to certify that particular product, is a true testament of the level of quality and how people see the brand. And I think it's very important to differentiate yourself going into uncharted market, like it was mentioned in Blue Ocean Strategy. Diversify your product, go into a market that is completely unknown, go into a market that would need you, create a niche for yourself, which is what you have done. Very beautiful, available for sale. Come and buy. I'm from Akwa Ibom. I get my supply directly from home and I get my supply in bulk, right? So yes, but I will patronize it because I like the packaging. I want to be able to put it in my shelf. I have an open shelf kitchen. So yeah, I love branding. So yes, thank you very much, Nella, for that contribution. I think it's a brilliant way for us to bring the meeting to a close. Each contribution has been very thought-provoking. Let's sit on it because we are expected to innovate in two directions, vertically and horizontally. Add value to what is already existing and reduce the cost, add efficiency, you get horizontal innovation. Create something completely new, rechannel it and position it somewhere else. You will be, creating innovation which we call 0 to 1. So on that premise, thank you very much for joining. It's been a very impactful house. We'd like to see you again tomorrow as we listen to our Harvard, alumni member, Umi, and also David, please quickly send me the name of the person who will be presenting, replacing Coach Nancy. Please join us. I hope Coach Efo, you have enjoyed our section today, Coach Efo and Maro. I hope you really enjoyed the section. Please go to our website to know more about the Business Readers Global. Time will not permit me to share. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn and I would give you, insight to the organization. And of course, if you'd like to join us on the website, you can always click on the link. Do not join as a guest, join as a member so that you can, unpack all the learning in the boardroom. From the founders, myself and Dr. Sam Obafemi, and also the president who is seated right there in Canada. Thank you very much for joining us and have a beautiful evening. Perfect. Perfect, Nancy. Thank you. Thank you. You're
Thank you,
winning
Princess. Thank
souls.
you, everyone.
You're winning souls for the landscape, for the learning landscape. Very beautifully done. Thank you. And bye-bye, everyone. Good night.